Welcome back to Finding the Truth series, where I present a step-by-step guide on how to find the truth of our existence. This is part 6, and in this part we will be talking to you guys about the necessary characteristics of the independency. And what is the independency that I'm referring to here? Well, it is the same independency that we concluded must exist for our reality to exist in our previous videos. If you haven't seen that, please go check it out. Now, why do we have to figure out the characteristics of the independency? Well, it is actually part of the process in finding the truth. Understanding the necessary characteristics of God is needed to determine a criteria for finding the truth. If these characteristics are not found in a truth claim or a religion, then it is unlikely to be true. So what do we know so far? Well, we know that the independency is independent, or you could say self-subsistent, and it is also unchanging. These are necessary because if it wasn't the case, then the chain of infinite regression would never end and the present would never occur. Another necessary characteristic of God is that God has to be infinite or unlimited. This is because we concluded that God is self-subsistent. He is independent, which also implies infinite power, infinite energy. For example, if you had a phone and it remained functional forever, what would allow for this to happen? Well, an infinite battery capacity has to be the case. In the same sense, it's not possible for God to be self-subsistent and independent if it weren't for the fact that he was infinite in terms of his qualities, including power and energy. This would allow him to be independent completely. Another necessary characteristic is knowledge and creative ability. We see laws and orders come about from knowledge. This is because humans create based on knowledge, and we see that the universe has laws and orders. Therefore, God has immense knowledge and the ability to create. Otherwise, the universe would not have law and order. Another necessary characteristic is consciousness. We know that humans have consciousness, and we know that the molecules that make up humans do not have consciousness. So we ask the question, where did consciousness come from? And then we realize that if God is knowledgeable, God would know that humans have consciousness. If God knows about consciousness, and consciousness cannot come about by unconscious things such as molecules, God must be conscious and must be the originator of that consciousness. So God must be the one who gave the consciousness to that which does not have it, which would be us. Another necessary characteristic is a will. Since God has creative ability and is conscious, as he concluded earlier, we also realize that God consciously created the universe. Therefore, God has a will. He willed for the creation of the universe. Another necessary characteristic of the independency is oneness, or being unitary. This is because infinity is indivisible. And since we've concluded that God has to be infinite, it is only logical that God cannot be indivisible. Even if we were to add infinity to infinity, or if there were multiple infinities, they would all just add up to another infinity. It would just be one infinity. In other words, they're indivisible. Can there be more than one thing if you cannot differentiate between them? Well, no, because if you can't differentiate between them in any way, then there's only one of that thing. And since God is infinite, you can't divide. Also, if there was more than one God, there would be competing wills and powers, and this would potentially lead to chaos. And then the universe would be chaotic. However, we see that the universe is ordered and is not chaotic, which implies that there's only a single entity. And then, as per Occam's razor, if you have two competing ideas to explain the same phenomenon, you should prefer the simpler one. And since the simplest way of understanding the independency is that it is one, that is the most logical conclusion. Therefore, we say that there can only be one independent, unchanging first cause. As such, God has the following necessary characteristics. God is independent or self-subsistent. God is unchanging, infinite, knowledgeable, has the ability to create, is conscious, has a will, and is unitary. Now, these characteristics will be part of our criteria for determining what is true and what is not true. If a religion describes God as such, we can be more certain that it might have originated from God. So I hope that makes sense, and I will see you in the next video where we will try to create a criteria for the truth.